Hey guys, Brox here, doing a very quick update video to the Mage build guide that I put out just the other day. If you liked that video, please watch this video and just listen to what I have to say, because two individuals helped clarify a couple things in the build planner that I had that caused me to have to make some changes, and I don't like putting out misleading information or incorrect information, so when I get corrected, I feel that it's imperative for me to put out an update video to actually give you guys the correct information so that you guys can actually functionally use the build in game. The two individuals who helped out was Torinux4980 from YouTube, and the YouTube comments pointed out that on nether items you can only graft 3 times, and that you cannot graft a non-defensive layer onto a defensive stat slot. So this caused me to have to regraft some of the affixes that are on the actual nether pieces of the gear and kind of just tweak them around a little bit to make them work functionally in the game. So just some minor tweaks, I'll go over that in just a second. The other one is actually a little bit more significant. Talchas from the Discord on Slormancer helped point out a couple key things about how multipliers work for certain statistics for this build. The two main ones is how the clones are considered totems because they are stationary targets, so they stand still and they don't move. So the totem effect modifier actually is a multiplier for their damage output. So that it caused some tweaks as well into how we adjust our affixes. And then he also made a really good check that is on me. I overlooked this because, and this is for anybody who makes build guides or tries to make builds yourselves, oftentimes I'll look at things really quickly and I'll be like, okay, this must be for melee, and I overlooked the passive called Turn the Tide because the first thing was talking about melee skills deal increased damage if you have more melee damage reduction, and I kind of just wrote it off and move to the next one. What I didn't read was the second paragraph, which says your projectile skills deal increased damage when you have projectile damage reduction. This increased damage, as Telchas pointed out, is another multiplier on the damage buckets. So grabbing it is actually really good because as it mixes with what Torinux4980 said. We didn't have a defensive layer slot that produced more damage because we couldn't graft a damage-based skill into the defensive stat. Well, now we can, because projectile damage reduction is a defensive stat that we can now convert to multiplicative damage. So where I thought we were going to potentially lose quite a bit of damage output from having to adjust the build, and the numbers seem like that may be the case, we're actually not. We're actually probably getting a little bit more damage than the 50 billion DPS that I had originally output. Even though we're losing multi-proj, we're losing quite a bit of multi-proj, and we're losing multipliers on the gear, we've actually gained a significant amount of multipliers from these two changes where we've changed the minion effect multiplier and this projectile damage reduction multiplier is actually giving us more multiplicative damage than we originally had in the build guides that I had originally output. So we should be doing about the same as the build guide, so nothing from a damage perspective should change. We should be doing about the same or more, and the only thing that really changes is how you actually build out the character. So just to run through it really quickly, so on the helmet for the defensive stats, we're going to pick up defensive projectile damage reduction. That again is because we're going to turn that into damage and use it as for the multiplier. The necklace, we're going to add totem increased effect damage. We're going to change the defensive stat to evasion because there's just no better option. For the chest piece, we're going to pick up in the defensive stat projectile damage reduction, again to convert that damage over. We're going to keep this one relatively the same as it was. We're going to add projectile damage reduction to our belt and totem effect to the epic stats. Same thing with the ring, projectile damage reduction, totem increased effect damage, and we're going to add shadow resistance here because we had to remove shadow resistance from the necklace defensive stat layer. We had to pick up a 5th instance of shadow resistance to get us to the 100% cap. We have sacrificed none of our caps, and I'll show that in the stats here in just a second. So boots, projectile damage reduction, and totem increased effect. projectile damage, totem increased effect. You're seeing we just kind of move some of the affixes around to get the extra multiplicative damage since we had to drop the affixes. That was another thing that was told to me is legendary affixes can't stack, so I went back and I changed all the legendary affixes to be unique. So Arcane Lord we kept the same. The Talisman, there's really no great legendary affix for this, so we just went with Cleanse. Cleanse is really nice because I've been getting reports that a lot of people are dying from burn ticks from the giant fireball, that if they hit the giant fireball, they instantly die. If you take Cleanse on your necklace, this will actually cleanse the damage, remove it. So this is probably really important for high primordial nethers where those burn ticks are probably significant. You could just cleanse it off as soon as you get hit. We have to change this to max Reaper damage multiplier from max raw damage multiplier because we can't have it stack with our bracers, but we can still pick up a multiplier on our damage because Reaper damage still computes into skill damage. So this is still a damage increase. This is the same as it was. For one of our rings, we picked up Rune of the Timeless. This will barely ever get used, but again, when we're doing bosses, we do drop Arcane Breach down. This will be a guaranteed time lock instance on the boss, which allows us to do AoE time lock damage to anything that it spawns, which is just a nice way to boost your damage on boss fights. Boots are exactly the same. Predator's Fang is just more damage, 42% increased damage on enemies below 65% life. On our gloves, we're going to pick up +3 levels in Ultimatum, so this will just allow us to move a little bit faster. Gloves are exactly the same for the legendary effect, and the shoulder pads are the exact same for the legendary effect. So none of that has changed. Weapon hasn't changed. Runes haven't changed. None of that has changed. It's really just grabbing the Turn Your Tide node here on your Arcane Commander Arcane Barrier, just grabbing Turn Your Tide, making these adjustments to the pieces that I've put out, and you'll see this number looks significantly lower, right? So you look at this number, and this was like 2.7 or something million, and this was quite a bit higher as well. None of this has really changed. Your health, your armor, none of that's really changed. While this looks significantly lower, and you may think, oh my gosh, that's a significant decrease, the actual top end of Arcane Missiles is relatively the same, so this number actually hasn't adjusted by that much. Another notation that someone pointed out is attack speed doesn't affect the totems. It has kind of like flat attack speed modifier, so we removed attack speed from the build as well. We should really be focusing on cooldown reduction, but I was also told that there's a cap on cooldown reduction. I did not realize this, but there is a cap, and we already hit that cap, so we can't increase it further than what it is, so don't worry about that too much. So when we look at the changes to the stats from the adjustments, we look like we're doing quite a bit less on the raw damage and the skill damage, but we still have a 100% crit chance with 243% crit damage. We still have a 100% ancestral chance with 584% ancestral strike damage. We still have a 100% armor pen, 100% ele pen from our staff, because our staff converts that armor pen into ele penetration. We have a damage to elites as another damage bucket. We have 100% shadow resistance still for the shadow debuff. We still have 100% tenacity with the build. The projectile damage reduction, that 85.8%, is getting converted into an 85.8% multiplier. Then we're picking up the plus 108 added projectiles. We're still getting 13 to 16 added multiple proj, which is, again, multiplying all of our damage. We still have 100% pierce chance, fork chance, and rebound chance to convert, all those projectiles into more projectiles. We have 70% projectile speed, 66% knockback speed, and this is the real big multiplicative change. We picked up 277% multi from totem increased effect, and this is what is offsetting all that multi that we lost on our gear. So we lost a bunch of multi on our gear, but we've picked up 277% here and 85.8% here. We should be doing almost exactly the same amount of damage, if not more damage with the build now. So I just wanted to put this build guide out. I was also told that someone who was watching the videos couldn't tell if the time lock explosion was actually working. So I went and tested it to be 100% sure that the time lock explosion is actually working. I will put a clip at the end of this video showing that the time lock explosion is in fact something that the Arcane clones can generate and does work. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. I am working on trying to resolve a planner for you guys for leveling. I had to take down the other one because, again, with these adjusted changes, I didn't have the old planner wasn't correct either. Another thing that people requested, oh, you know what? I was actually in the right spot. Another thing that people requested in video format that was missing from the build guide was the attribute stat layout. So I'll put that in this video on the screen. You can always find it in the build planner as well. So you just go in, you click on attributes, and you can see the attribute breakdown as well. This is exactly what I am using in my game. Even though we don't use attack speed, the reason I went for attack speed was to grab the pierce chance. So if you look here, this is providing us an extra 15% pierce chance and damage to elites, and then some other stuff for our projectiles, while still giving us some Reaper damage, even though the attack speed isn't super helpful. This is just giving us some added effects there, and add that added pierce chance to get it to 100%. Here we're picking up the 10% crit chance, and here we're picking up the 32% armor penetration, and the raw damage, of course, because we're a raw damage build. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, obviously leave them in the comments below. If anybody else notices anything that I'm missing on this build planner, I took a lot more time with this one, please let me know. I will take a look at it and make the adjustments as necessary. Have a great day. Hey guys, Brox here, just adding the time lock clip. Here we're going to hit an elite enemy who gets time locked. Projectile mob who is stopping projectiles is going to get hit for 37 million damage. We don't ever hit for 37 million damage on a single projectile, plus the projectiles can't bypass his barrier. So this is proving that the damage that the elite is taking is actually AoEing and doing the time lock damage, as you can see in the video. So this just is here to show you guys that the time lock explosion portion of the build is actually working as intended. If you have any other questions, just let me know.